Hi guys, welcome to Power and Poised. I am your real and raw Barbie Deja, giving you everything real and raw. And today we are diving deep into the world of holistic health and wellness with a very special guest, Samantha. She is a Christian-based health and wellness service that takes a truly holistic approach, incorporating mindfulness, spirituality, root cause healing to help others live a more balanced and a fulfilling life. Her mission is to guide people towards a whole body wellness, not just physically, but mentally and spiritually as well. So I'm so excited to have this conversation. Welcome, Samantha.
Thank you so much, Deja.
Of course. Please tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll start about yourself first.
Absolutely. So, my name is Samantha. I was born in Jersey. I currently live in Georgia. I'm a mom. I am a wife. I am a Christian. Yeah, like health and wellness has always been my thing. I started off at a young age, battling obesity. And so I decided, I think when I was like in my second year of high school, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do something about this. So I started exercising, started changing my diet. And funny enough, when I did that, that actually triggered another health issue. It's something called cholecystitis, where you have like gallstones within your gallbladder, or sometimes they could be lodged in certain areas. So anyway, I had this gallbladder issue, and I'll just say this really quick. It was interesting because this is how I became a nurse. Um, I was like 16 or 17 or so. And so, I told my dad, I'm like, hey, my stomach is like really hurting. And, he called the pediatrician, and the pediatrician was like, okay, well, when was her last menstrual period and all these other things. And I'm like, okay, well, why are they asking that? Right. So they said, go to the hospital. So we went to the hospital, and first thing that they thought was, okay, let's do a pregnancy test. And I'm like, okay, I'm not pregnant. I can tell you I'm not pregnant. And so they they were just like, hey, you're constipated. We're gonna send you home with some, like, I think it was Malox. They gave me like a little concoction and then sent me back home. And then happened again. I was at a friend's house and we were eating pepperoni pizza. That was probably the last time I've ever had pepperoni pizza in my life because I stopped eating meat. And so had this pepperoni pizza. Then I started getting like this back pain. And it was like going up by my shoulder and then this
Mm.
abdominal pain. Like all of these symptoms were coming back again. And I'm like, I don't know what this is, mom. Like, so went to the doctor, I went to the hospital, and then funny enough, it was the nurse who was asking me questions. She started saying, okay, well, I don't even remember what question she was asking me. The point was that she spent more than 5 minutes in the room with me. And she asked enough questions to then turn to the doctor and say, hey, I think she has an issue with her gallbladder. They did a CAT scan. Surely enough, I had gallstones. I had to then have a cholecystectomy, which was the removal of my gallbladder, which
Wow.
then led me into another journey of health and wellness because when you don't have a gallbladder, your gallbladder essentially helps you to break down your fats. So if you don't have that, the cheese couldn't do 2%, 1%, couldn't do fat free. So I then switched to soy. And that literally started my journey or another part of my journey in health and wellness. And I say all that to say, one, as a provider, when you take the time to listen to your patients and you get a good history, it almost tells you everything that you need to know. You can then connect the dots with what it is that you know based upon what it is that they're telling you. So when I see people and they're like, hey, and I'm having this and then this, and it all seems random, those are often the times where people are just brushed to the side and they're like, yeah, no, that doesn't really have anything to do with that. But if you take the time to think about it and really use your critical thinking skills, you can start to connect the dots, which is what which is what I started to do in my profession. Um, the other thing to say was, like I said, that wasn't the beginning of my journey. The beginning of my journey was wanting to lose weight, which catapulted into something else. So that just goes to show you that it is not, there's no end point to your journey.
Mm.
It's going to continue, it's going to continue to evolve, which is why. I call this business wellness evolving because you're
Yes.
always going to be going to another level. So, with that being said, I'm so excited about this today. I look forward to talking about health and wellness, to being a part of Power and Poised today. And yeah, let's go.
Yes, what a powerful story. And I was gonna follow up about how you got into holistic health, but literally, and there's so many of us. First of all, happy Black History Month being our last week of Black History Month, even though it is every day. But this
Absolutely.
story, her testimony, is an example of not only why it's so imperative to have more of us in the field as
Mm,
well as the health field, and not only to be educated,
yeah.
but to also start, reclaiming your power and speaking up for yourself. If you weren't
Yes.
so adamant about, yeah, this is not that, this is definitely not that, something is
Mm,
wrong, who knows where you would be right now? Who knows
yeah.
how your journey would be different if you weren't at such a growth mindset place in your life at that time? You would have never made it to where you are. So I really
Yeah.
do give you your claps and snaps for what you've done at such a young age as well, because it sets you up for your life now to
Mm,
be impactful for others and do what you need to do and be an
yeah.
amazing nurse practitioner. Okay. So this is gonna slide us in something that Anwar White, I believe his last name, he is a dating
Mm,
coach. You guys have probably seen him all over TikTok if you're on that side of TikTok. And he had a
mm,
video about a slogan that he calls for. He is a dating coach for Black and brown women, getting them to be married as soon as possible in the best way that is valued, that they are truly valued. So
mm.
that is important to say because he wants Black women to start having more WWA. Now, WWA is white woman audacity. Now, I know you guys are probably like, Deja, what does this have to do with the topic at all? Let us explain. So when I had first met Samantha, we were talking and we were just discussing about, how powerful it is for her to be in her field. And we just had a few discussions about how people react to her in the
Mm,
field and how sometimes people are questioning her or they're kind of like, do you really know what you're talking about? Or if she knows too much of what she's talking about, she's labeled cocky. You can give us before we get into actual WWA, kind of just how that's made you feel in your journey, especially with your mission of being a practitioner based on being educated and educating your clients as well.
yeah. Okay. So I want to say this very gently because I do feel like sometimes I come off very aggressive. First of all, I'm from New Jersey, so I'm just gonna give it to you like this. It's a little hard, so I know I have to reel back sometimes. But there are things that you know based upon practice, based upon evidence, like evidence-based practice, because that's what we work off of. But there's another component that not everyone gets into, and it's really just more intuition. It is more flowing in the spirit. It is more listening into your body and being inclined to do something and you don't quite know why. And then you do the research and you say, aha, okay. Um, so there are things that I know that I've innately had because the spirit was always kind of guiding me along the way. But when you first start off as a nurse, when you go from nursing, I was a nurse for 10 years before, I think 7 or 10 years before I became a nurse practitioner. And two different things. Yes, you still have the heart, but you have a different level of autonomy. You're no longer going to be you're not going to execute the the requests or the orders or those types of um, levels of care, like, okay, dressing changes, things of that nature. You're not doing that. You're now the one turning and you are then telling someone else to do, or you're then deciding based upon what these diagnoses are or differential diagnoses, what's the best course of action? And so it's definitely like you can go from experienced to novice going into
Mm,
that new avenue. So with that, it does I don't want to say there's imposter syndrome, but you're just not sure. You haven't done it enough. And that's just with anything else. So you have to start practicing in order to get your flow, to get into the rhythm of things, right? So in addition to that, now you have people who may look at you and this like, you could be my granddaughter. And I've gotten that so many times, even when I was a nurse, like, don't let me wear pigtails. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. And for whatever reason, it's just easier to wear pigtails. But even with that being said, you have to present yourself a certain way or else you don't get taken seriously. And sometimes, as a nurse practitioner, as a registered nurse, and now going into holistic health and wellness coaching, you still feel like you have something to prove because why do you think you should listen to me? Social media is all about the know, like, and trust method, right? So it was just it's funny sometimes. And I used to get upset, um, thinking like, okay, why do I always have to prove myself? Why do I?
Mm,
And then I just stopped. I
mm,
stopped doing it. And it was to everyone, especially African Americans, because
yeah.
you know what I mean? Sometimes it's like those are your biggest critics because
Yes.
and subconsciously it's because if they're not seeing enough of people in that role,
Yep.
how can they
Yep.
see you in that role and to hold you to a certain standard?
And
And
I,
so, go
yes.
ahead,
And
go ahead, go ahead.
systematically, I try, y'all, to not make this a history lesson every episode, but systematically, we have to understand that we have all been conditioned to think anything associated with black is negative, dumb, scary, fearful, or bottom of the blow, right? So
Yes.
even on a unconscious and subconscious level, when you get into these spaces and you see a black person, everyone is not at the level in emotional intelligence and
Yes.
at that spiritual level to be like, I know you worked your butt off here, and I know you know what you know. Some people are still like it's kind of too good to be true, and it's crazy because it's not easy to get to these high profile roles, and all of us know we have to work 2 times as hard, 3 times as hard. So to even know that that is still flowing in our community after decades of
Hmm.
having impactful lawyers, impactful activists, impactful people in the medical field, it is so disheartening because you're still feeding into the system of oppression because
Mm.
they don't like not our kind and our community, but the system itself doesn't like to see people like you, doesn't
Yeah.
like to see famous black lawyers because we're going against the grain, we're going against everything that was ingrained, which
Hmm.
when you have those patients that are, whether they are African American or they're not, and they're kind of looking at you like, do you know what you know? It's affirming how strong they made this belief system
Mm.
about us. And it's disheartening, but the more you stay true to yourself and the more you stay aligned with constantly educating yourself, staying aligned with God, staying aligned with your purpose, you are constantly breaking out of that barrier and breaking out of that box that they're putting you in and forcing them to be uncomfortable,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
why most of the time they speak up, because that speak up is
Mm.
really them like, I'm a little uncomfortable, like
Mm.
I don't think this is right, but you just
Mm.
diagnosed me with something that no one has told me before. But how can this be right? You're not supposed to be educated. You're not supposed to
Mm.
know.
Mm.
So to just feed off of what you said, it's so deep and it's so disheartening that we are still explaining to others that those barriers aren't true.
Yeah,
And we can go
yeah.
back to our ancestors putting rice in hair so they can have something to
Mm.
eat, berating exit routes. They seen the power within us so much that they had to come full force and say we were so low and so nothing because
Mm-hmm.
they could never match.
Mm. 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 And you know what? It's not even about, and people always feel like they need to preface, it's not anti-white, it's pro-black. You know what I mean? So, you shouldn't even have to say that,
Yep.
but it's within yourself a level of security that you have. And people can't change that for you. That's something that you have to do the inner work about. You know what I mean? But that's a whole nother topic. Lord.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
And I
but
definitely took us there, but it had to be said because just to also reaffirm to you as well that, everyone isn't like this. And I can't imagine how you feel when you have these patients and clients in front of you and they're like, I say, are you right? It's like, are you asking me if I'm right? And I'm serving you. Do you know what's wrong with you? Because you wouldn't be here if you did.
but that's the other problem. So I will say, I will hold on to what you just said right there. But one, for me, I don't get upset anymore because it's happened way too many times. Um, Now I just let my work do the talking. And so by the end of the appointment, they're like, okay, so what else do you think? And I'm like, I don't know, get back to your doctor. No, I'm just kidding. I'm
Yeah,
just kidding.
exactly.
No,
Exactly.
no, but not to be so funny. But seriously, it your work speaks for itself. You don't have to do all of the fighting. And that sometimes I don't want to speak for all Black women because I'm not all Black women. Me personally, you always feel the need to have to fight, to have to prove. No longer. You no longer need to do it. My work is going to show for itself. You can either take it or you leave it. Um, and the people that are called to me, that are called to my calling, those are the people that I want to serve because those are
Yes.
the people that we're speaking about
Yes.
who you need to do the transformation of the mind. And that's what the Bible says. Don't be conformed by this world, but be renewed by the transforming, like be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So with you
Yes.
doing that, like it's just so it's so easy to just settle for less, like
Be
oh
comfortable. That's all settling for less is comfort. And
yeah.
that goes back to the comfort of ignorance. Ignorance is
Mm,
bliss. It's easier for people to pour into this narrative that we are less than and we are not supposed to be in these spaces. And it's easier for some people to just be like, I have to fight, I have to fight, I have to fight because and then it's hard. It's hard being a
mm,
Black woman, but so many Black women who are on this journey of reinventing their mind and shifting understand that they don't have to fight anymore. And it's a
mm-hmm,
hard concept to explain because it's just really getting comfortable with knowing that you are enough and these barriers
mm,
that these systems place around you and your profession and who you are has nothing to do with who you are. So it's
yeah,
like
yeah,
getting to that point takes a lot and it's so hard and it's confusing and it's tough because you still have to fight to get in these rooms.
mm-hmm,
However, like you said, you just let your work speak for you. When you made that shift, what you truly did was just release control. You
mm.
release trying to control how everyone perceived you.
Oh,
You release control of how things were supposed to go in your life, the rooms you were supposed to be in, because you literally just said it. Who's gonna be for me, who's on my path, is who I'm gonna be aligned with.
yeah,
But
yeah,
to get there, it took you a lot, and you still had to fight to get here. Point blank. Period.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, Man, the gems just be dropping, and I'm hard. I'm like, I
I'm
gotta
sorry,
keep
I do
up.
be dropping a lot of gems. I do be dropping a lot of gems real quick.
But go
No
ahead, go
worries.
ahead.
We're gonna let you sit on that because we're gonna slide right
Okay,
to the WWA. Because we
okay.
staying on this topic, y'all. I ain't playing no game. Um, now we done said that whole thing because, and this is not just like she said. This conversation has nothing to do with pro-black, anti-white, anything like this. Is a conversation of humans, okay,
Mm, yeah.
and respect and speaking about systematically oppressed, marginalized community that has been so dehumanized
Mm,
that people don't even think that they are capable of getting a bachelor's degree, damn near
mm,
being a nurse practitioner, damn near being a doctor, damn near getting a PhD.
mm,
And now that we got that clear with
yeah.
WWA, since they have never had this experience of being so dehumanized and everyone's so desensitized to their feelings and their needs, they can walk around like shoulders back. Peep next time if you are a Black person or a person of color, when you get into an elevator with your counterpart, are they asking you to press the elevator button?
Mm,
When you go into the doctor's office and you may have a white nurse practitioner or a white nurse, and you ask them a question and they give you an attitude because it's kind of like, why are you questioning me? Or you're
Mm,
speaking about what's going on with you and your health needs and what's going on with you. And they're like, yeah, no, that's not it.
yeah, yeah.
That level of complete polar opposites that we just literally heard from a nurse practitioner to we all have those moments of when we weren't validated in the health system, when we were spoken down to, or we had those moments where they expected us to do for them. Like, how can we as Black women start to embody this WWA without coming off cocky, which is not a real thing, but we'll
Mm.
use the term for today. Um, how can we shift into that, which is poised, being more poised?
Essentially, I saw this video yesterday, and the woman was talking about, why she always presents herself in a certain way. Like she's just, you're not going to see her with a bonnet on her head. She's like, there's nothing wrong with if you put a bonnet on your head, but I'm just not subscribing to it. And so I think she was talking about hyperfemininity and the idea of why she grew up that way and what she realized her parents were actually doing. Long story short, she is saying that all of the influential women that she, uh, I don't want to say idolized, but looked up to that were on TV, they had that appearance. They were well presented, they were taken care of, they weren't necessarily alpha females. And a lot of us come from an alpha female standpoint because you're in that fight or flight mode. You feel like you have to do the fighting. But because you have to do the fighting, guess what's coming with it? More testosterone. So when testosterone is matching testosterone of a man, how does that work in relationships? You know what I
Mm,
mean? So that's a whole nother thing. But her talking about hyperfemininity was so interesting because she said it's almost a way of protection.
mm-hmm.
Because if you are presented as a hyper feminine, delicate woman, you're going to be less likely to be lashed out at. But then again, you're going to feel less likely that you need to explain yourself. You're going to
Yes.
feel less likely the need to, and I think maybe in that sense, that is how you can go more into the WWA mentality. Because I'm just here. I'm just, this is me.
Just
This is who I
existing.
am. And I'm just existing. And yes, definitely look at that video because it's crazy. But yeah, it's funny. This was like years ago. I remember I was at the airport and maybe I had a hoodie on. I like being very comfortable. Um, very rarely do I get dressed up to fly somewhere. And so it was like a late flight. I sit down, and then there's a Caucasian gentleman who comes later on and he sits next to me, but and then he puts his what do you call this? He puts his he puts his bag. What do you call that bag?
Oh, his
Like his
carry-on.
briefcase. He
Oh,
no,
the
he
briefcase.
puts his
Okay.
briefcase right by my foot. Like when I tell you it was right by my foot, I was just like, what happened to personal space? But that was when you mentioned WWA, and I didn't know about what that was before. That was the first thing that came to mind because it's not just Caucasian women.
Yep.
It can be Caucasian men as well. You know what I mean?
Yes.
There was no respect of my personal space in a role where it was just the two of us. Why would you feel the need to come and sit right here and put your bag right here? And so and then you sometimes don't feel like you have the ability to speak up and to say,
Yep.
excuse me, you know?
Yep.
And so I either just moved or I was just like, you know what, whatever. But it just made me realize people in this life can sometimes just exist. And I will tell you one thing, because
Yes.
now we're really about to get into something. Not that we weren't getting into anything before, but it's on my, it's on my spirit now. Because this is why it is so important to do your mindset shifting. Because in from outside looking, well, from an outside perspective, I could say the audacity of him to go and do that and feel
Yes.
so disrespected, right? But guess what? That's not doing anything to him. That is increasing my cortisol levels, my stress levels, impacting my blood sugar regulation, aging my skin. He has no bearing on what just happened because it's not in his mindset. It is not there. So, another way I would say to embody that WWA mentality is to shift your mindset. Stop feeling like you need to fight. You don't need to fight. I am here. I'm present. I am more than enough, like you said. Because if he had that mindset of, oh, what would people think if I put, and that's a whole different thing. That's a whole cultural thing. Like that's what we were raised to think. Like, oh, what would people think? So you always have to tiptoe and you have to be
Yes, gotta
careful
stay on
about
your
what you
P's and
do or what you
Q's.
say. You have to stay on your P's and Q's. But if that's not within your mindset, that's not how you were raised. It's like checkers and chess. It's two different games you're playing at that point. So, in order to get there, you have to change your mindset because once you start changing your mindset, you're not necessarily looking at those things anymore as challenges or frustrations. You may not even, one, you may not even see it anymore. Two, it may not even happen because energy is energy. It's just transformed. It just keeps going back and forth. That's like when people say, "Oh my God, like my life is so horrible. Like my life sucks." And then things will then start to take place because your words are so powerful that it will start to show you why your life sucks. It will start to show you why bad things are always happening to you. Instead of if you put those positive words into the atmosphere, it's just going to represent those things to you. Like this, for me, is such a blessing to be a part of this. Because when you reached out to me, I said, you know what? This is my year of intentionality and obedience. So I said, I'm not going to do anything that God didn't tell me to do because we have tons of opportunities. Why? Mindset. We have tons of opportunities. But is every opportunity the right opportunity? Is it something that God has led me to? And so I waited and I sat there, and then you posted something, and then I said, this was my sign. And so that's how I reached out to you. But if you didn't put that energy out there, if I wasn't vibrating on that wavelength, I could have been looking at other things on social media that were a lower energy. I wouldn't have checked my DM or I wouldn't have, you know what I mean? But you have to be vibrating on a higher frequency in order to match the higher frequency things that you want to achieve in your life. And with that may come the WWA because you're beyond unbothered. Does that make
Yes, yes. I
sense?
feel like you said so many things. I am not even gonna try to, ladder
Sorry.
back up and hit all the topics, but exactly this thing of frequency. A lot of people think it's fake. And it's
Mm,
just it's not. When you switch to a growth mindset and you're
mm,
at this elevated level of thinking, perceiving, and just understanding that you know nothing. That okay, that
mm,
man that put his briefcase down, he might not even have any negative intent. He could have had a long day. Maybe something happened to his family. He just, oh, I just want this off my hand. Or he could have
mm-hmm,
that sense of entitlement of like, yeah, I'm gonna put this down, but kind of fixating on one endpoint, on one perspective, drives you insane for a flight that's
mm-hmm,
what, less than 3 hours? And I bring back that example to say everything you said with the frequency, the shifting your mind, because being in a different mindset, you just look at him and say, weird, but okay, and just go about your day. and and moving at that frequency and having that mindset allows you to connect with like-minded people. Every person I've had on the pod so far are guests that were genuinely called to me. I made a
mm-hmm,
post on Threads that I wanted to um have guests on, and this was before we switched to Power and Poise. And so transparently, no one really knew what my brand
mm-hmm,
was. I feel like now if I were to reach out, the name itself will grab people that are in my frequency and aren't in my frequency.
mm,
Just by the power of the name will kind of pull
yeah.
everyone. So I had over 80 responses. So I am going through every single response
Wow.
because just like you said, I
Come
wanted this year to be
on.
filled with intentionality. I've always been intentional, but limited control intentionality. I wanted to see people and see how their page made me felt, see what their mission
Mm,
statement was. Did it align?
mm,
So just like you said, when I posted something, you were like, okay, yeah, this is for me. When I went through your page and went through my other amazing, beautiful guest page, I was like, wow. And during Black History Month, I originally wanted to do a fact an unknown Black fact every single day.
Mm.
And it didn't work out that way. But what it did end up working out was all of my guests being Black women, powerful Black women. And I was like, no, I like this much more because
Wow.
we can do that March. We can do that June,
Mm,
January, because it still needs to be amplified. But
mm,
I say all that to say, speaking to you and all of the other beautiful, empowering Black women that are just there. It affirms you that this mindset shift is necessary for a life of ease and success. And
yeah.
understanding that success isn't defined by how many followers you have or how much money you're tangibly making, but it's your
Mm,
spirit.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
who you're knowing, who you're connecting with, and connecting with like minded people and saying, okay, Stamp, this is confirmed. This is what I'm supposed to do. This is right. This is the proper mindset. And
Mm,
to kind of slide us a little bit into power and poise, when I had first switched, Samantha was the first person that I actually spoke to after I just did the switch. And we've been communicating for a bit. And I kind of wanted to just clarify to her, like, what happened. So, with the WWA talk, with everything we just said, that's what power and poise is.
mm,
That is what, and I put in the actual title poise past tense because once you reclaim your
mm,
power, that poise is
mm.
there. You don't have to fight for it because once you
Wow.
reclaim that energy, just everything we talked about, being on that energetic field, releasing the
Mhm.
control, shifting to a growth mindset, giving your life to God, spirit,
Mm,
um, you allow
mm.
yourself to just naturally be poised because you're relaxed.
Yeah.
You don't have to fight.
You don't have to fight. That's
You
the
are
one.
poised. So
Yeah.
that's why we were talking about, to make it all make sense for anyone who is still confused. This is why we spoke about how our
Mm,
society views educated Black women, how as Black women in a prominent field, how we're treated and how we can have this WWA and how that just makes us poised. Because in my eyes, once you know your power and you let your work speak for yourself, you don't gotta do too much, you don't gotta fight, you're
mm,
poised.
mm.
No one's
Yeah.
gonna argue with you if you're just talking like this, because they're gonna think you're yelling. No one's gonna question you if you're just looking at them like, okay, have a great day. They're gonna
Okay.
feel like, okay, that was weird.
And that's usually the time where they're like, you know what, I'm really sorry about the way I was behaving. And then you're like, okay, sure. I get it. We all have those days, but you don't feed that energy. And then they come back down. This is where the intuition part comes in, and you're like, these aren't things that necessarily are evidence-based.
Yep.
But we've been talking about women that are in a space where you feel like you have to fight. You're in fight or flight mode. Your cortisol levels are going up. And I keep saying that because there are so many women who are Black and white and Hispanic, everyone. You are, because of society, you are burnt at all ends.
Yeah.
And you have to be that alpha female because I mean, I love Beyonce and I love Destiny's Child, but I feel like, I'm a survivor and all those other things. Like it's a it's a hustle mentality.
It's a coding.
Women weren't, yeah, it's like, were women really meant to hustle? And sometimes we hustled out of necessity. You know
Mm.
what I mean? Because you had to, because you wanted a better life for your children, for you know what I mean? Like you had that. But with all that being said, with all of that hustling, increasing the testosterone levels, because you need, right? You to get that drive to go to be an alpha female, you have to have a decent level of testosterone. But now that I'm seeing women who are burnt out, who are experiencing brain fog, fatigue, difficulty losing weight, difficulty gaining muscle mass, difficulty with blood sugar regulation. A lot of those women have decreased testosterone levels. But is it because they were burning themselves out so much with the hustle mentality? That's what just came to mind. And that has never I've never had that correlation before. So this is the first time that I'm saying this, and now I have to really think about it. But these are the things that I may say or I may keep inside because if you go on social media now, you have, and I guess we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but how social media has exposed people to holistic alternative.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks that they're a guru, and you kind of have to use some wisdom to what it is.
And to really emphasize what you're talking about, I just had Monet on, and we were talking about your parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system.
Mm,
When
hmm
you are living in fight or flight, ladies and gentlemen, you are, it's what it sounds like, fight or flight.
Yeah,
Are you fighting or are you just crashing? Are you
yeah,
fighting or you feel like you got to move? That is not a way to live. And
hmm
the most discouraging thing about it is that's how Black women have to live to survive.
yeah,
We're saying
hmm
this survive in because you point blank period, you do have to do that in the sense. It's when you shift your mindset, you see how you can move things differently through life. But
yeah,
that's what we already spoke about. So we'll talk about it in the sense of surviving.
hmm
Um, when you're in this fight or flight mode, guess what? Your body's tense. Guess what? You're always looking around. This is epigenetics, y'all. This is
hmm
scientific. We have fight or flight from our ancestors, not even from us, okay? Just by means of what the gruesome things that they went through. It
mm
is in our
mm
body. So even coming out of the womb, we should be trying to regulate our nervous system and trying to calm
Yeah,
ourselves down because we already have so much trauma within us, genetic trauma that doesn't even come from our greats
yeah,
that we are still living in this mode. So now incorporate your own life, incorporate your own family. When you're
mm
living in this fight or flight mode, it can seem like you're very aggressive. It can
mm
seem as if you can't sleep. You're always hungry, you're not hungry enough. Just like you said, you can't lose weight or you're losing weight. All of these symptoms that are linked to depression, anxiety,
yep,
even kind of schizophrenia, we're shifting more into the clinical psych part right now, but
hmm
it's all related. Um, Arguably, their results from being in that fight or flight. And for a
yeah,
lot of people in the Black community, we are misdiagnosed.
mm
And it is a disparity. And it honestly is really the new pandemic, if we're being honest, but people don't want to talk
mm
about that because society benefits off of people being so in their fight or flight. When people are regulating their nervous system, guess what? They're manifesting faster. They don't have brain
mm
fog. They don't have burnout. They can actually show up and be themselves. They're not worrying
yeah,
about what people think about them or what's going on. All of these positive things that will allow someone to what we're
yeah,
now calling quantum leaping
yep,
and getting in touch with God and understanding that you really don't got no control but to just relax.
yeah,
That's something they don't want people to connect
mm
to. A lot of people have to understand our ancestors, the African spirituality is so
mm
insane. It's so insane. It's everything we're talking about now, basically, the manifesting, the quantum leaping, connecting with God and source. I use God and source and universe very interchangeably. So that's just me and some of my other listeners. But connecting with that, but then when you start to learn about African spirituality, you're like, whoa, this is why they were so powerful because they were always in tune. They were working off of this method.
Please, can I raise my hand, please? Can you call on me, please?
Called
Because
on.
because here's the problem that I have because you previously touched on the fact that if it doesn't if the person looks like you that you're hearing the information from, then it doesn't seem valid. But there is I think he's a neuropsychologist. Um, his name is Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Mm-hmm.
Love his information.
Love Joe
Love his
Dispenza.
information. But if you hear it from him, then you're like, oh, okay, manifesting, okay, visualizations, okay, you know what I mean? But if you then heard it from African spirituality, then you're like, that's you know what I mean? But you have to it's not packaged in the way in which you wanted it. So it doesn't seem like it's real. But this is the stuff that they knew so many years ago.
So
And
many
sometimes
years ago.
the my husband always says, and I forget who said it, but essentially like the person who has the pen has the power. If you put it in writing, you have the proof. A lot of our history is orated because that's, you know what I mean? You weren't able to write. You weren't able so it wasn't written down. If it's not written down, you say this in nursing. If you didn't document it, it wasn't done. You don't know, right? It's the same thing. So now that all of these things are coming into play and people are realizing, I don't want to say this, but you have to take active, you have to be an active participant in your health. And they're looking back to other things that may not necessarily be evidence-based. That's when you're getting a lot of pushback now. And I was just talking to my husband about this. I'm like, God, I know I'm doing something right because the trolls on the internet these days, I'm just like, and he was like, well, there are some people who get paid to dispense misinformation. And that's a real thing. But that's not just social media. That's long ago when I'm, a, I'm they've been doing that for a while. I'm gonna just say that.
Yeah, and
So,
we don't even have to go deep into that. What we just said, y'all, look up what Thomas Jefferson said about black people. But he had about 13, 14 kids with his black slave, and we're not going to go into that conversation because this is once again why it's so important to dive into black history in your own family ancestry as well, because you can see how these people have been around of the misinformation.
yeah,
These people have been around kind of putting these little roadblocks to cloud
lies.
our judgment and to lead us farther away from connecting with who we are, our purpose, our
Hmm.
spirituality, to get on that vibrational frequency. Because
Hmm.
honestly, what I feel like, they just probably never got a hold of it. They can't
Mm.
conceptualize how you're able to do this. And
Yeah,
just like you
yeah,
said, it's tradition in African culture and Pan African. It's oral.
yeah,
It how you hate from our side of the club. You can't even get in. It is that way. It is a club that you have to get into, though. For real though, it is a club that if you don't understand, you won't understand.
yeah.
There's practices, traditions, and just ways of life that our ancestors communicated with, and it was a disservice that it wasn't written down fully.
Mm.
But we even have an example of this conversation so good, y'all. But I promise you, this was not our outline. But this is
It
about to
was
get you because
not.
I know this when I watched Stamp from the Beginning, and I'm gonna do another episode diving into this movie. Stand from the Beginning is a movie on Netflix that just talks about how do we even get here? Okay, how
Mm.
were we even stamped from the beginning? Why was it just us that were imported and etc.? So after they did this beautiful story, and I believe after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed, and we started to be able to integrate in air quotes, Phyllis Wheatley, she actually wrote a book of poems about her life.
Mm.
And now she put her name on it, but obviously back then you don't have like pictures. So everyone's like, oh my God, this piece of art. This is
Um,
beautiful. Give me 10, give me 20. I need them. So then it comes out that it was an actual black house slave. And everyone's like, no, she could not have written this. She put her
mm.
name on it. Somebody else wrote it, she put her name on it. So this young black woman had to go to
Mm.
trial in front of 30, 40 white men, just going in on her, asking her every little detail about her book to
Mm.
validate that she
Mm.
wrote it. Now,
Mm.
I said that to say, in the movie, after they said every black woman has their Phyllis Wheatley moment of where they
Mm.
have done something that was credible, and now their credibility is getting questioned.
Mm.
And
Mm.
it was so powerful to me that I sat on that for so many days, because how how do you navigate that? How do you even navigate something that happened so far ago, in this misinformation that they spread so much, in this misperception of this community? How is this still living now? How, and I
Mm.
think it was 1878, don't quote me. Um, this happened. How are we still having Phyllis Wheatley moments this far in?
Mm,
Because
mm,
of exactly what your husband said. There's these people back then, they weren't even getting paid. But guess what? If you spread more misinformation, it levels your status because now you're
mm,
having less people on that playing field that you have to fight, compete with, which is the
mm,
Eurocentric mentality of
mm,
competing, individualism. That the less people they get in competition, they could go up faster.
mm, mm,
It was
mm.
impossible for them to believe a young black woman can write a book of poems, speak fluently, have proper grammar, and convey a story so beautifully.
Mm. That is,
Look it up,
oh,
Phyllis Wheatley. You probably would resonate so much. I know you have so many experiences of that.
and that's unfortunate. It is unfortunate.
We have reached the midpoint, probably low key closer to the end. So we have given y'all some real powerful, really outlooks of understanding. I just need, this is what's really called for me to say right now. I need anyone, anyone and everyone who is listening to this right now, and especially if you're a young black woman, stay true to your purpose. It can get
Mm,
hard. I know the 3D may seem like you're not getting enough money to pay your bills, or you're not just getting the money you need, or it could seem like you keep getting no's after no's, but stay aligned with your purpose. Your power is unmatched. Your power can never be even defined by a number. Any
oh,
number of followers, number in your bank account, number of people around you. But what wow, this is actually really, this is really hitting me. What how your worth
mm,
can really be defined is who you're around. Your network.
mm,
How are people speaking about you when you're not in the room? That
mm,
is the
mm.
power that I challenge everyone to just exude. And how you can
Yeah,
wholeheartedly have that happen is just be true to yourself, true to your
yeah,
purpose, true to your path. Don't allow anyone to shift you from that, and just living yourself in totality, because once you do that, it's done.
that's it. That's it. It is so good that you said that because what I heard was I was looking at a post yesterday and it said, you can't open up the doors that you want unless you become the person that you need to be.
Yep.
It's like a lock and key. If you if you're wanting something, but you're so focused on what everybody else has, and you're not staying true to yourself, you're now presenting yourself to be this other version. You keep going into all these doors, and it's not. Why is it not locking? Like it's not unlocking. It's the wrong key. You got the wrong formula. But you always had that formula within you all along. But when you get all this misinformation, when you're eating all of these foods you're not supposed to be eating, you got to think about what that does to you on a cellular level.
Mm.
You're changing your mitochondria, you're changing your cells. What is then going to be produced? Not what you want, not the keys that are going to get you into those doors that you want. So it's like, and then you have to consider, is that what I really want? You know what I mean? I posted something and I got backlash about it. And I'll say it's on threads, and I really like threads. Um,
We like to be a
so
little spicy over here. That's why we keep it real and raw.
So, and this is where I say sometimes they come off being very passionate and it may be coming off a little bit harsh because I was like, my husband was like, okay, I could kind of see how someone, sometimes you can't tiptoe. Sometimes you can't tiptoe. And we're in a place right now in our healthcare system, we have to stop tiptoeing. We cannot continue to say, okay, you need to lose weight. I'll see you in 6 months. And you come back looking the same way. I've done nothing for you. You've done nothing for yourself, and I've done nothing for you. I can't play those games with people because I know that people's futures are on the line. I know that if you align yourself with what you should be eating, what you should be putting into your ear gates and your eye gates, when you change your mindset, the devil doesn't even have to do much right now.
Mm.
He could just keep you where you are with this misinformation, with this poor, highly processed foods, and you could stay right there. It's he's not even gonna lift off the cover and expose what God possibly has for you because you still got on blinders. This, and that's not even him working hard. You don't even gotta pray at 3 o'clock in the morning for that. He's like,
It's
oh,
already
I'll just
there.
keep her right here on the shelf. I'll just keep her right there on the shelf. she's good. I could work on these other people who are actually trying to do something. So I don't even know how I got to that guy. But so there was a post and they were talking about, you know, someone was talking about like a viral illness that is going around in Vegas or something like that. And all of these people are like, oh, it's because people aren't vaccinated, and oh, it's because people are. And I said, okay, this is something that I need people to understand. November, no, excuse me, October. October, you had a whole bunch of candy for Halloween. November, you had turkey and maybe mac and cheese, right? So December, you had eggnog, more sweets, apple pie, pumpkin, whatever, you name it. January, you popping bottles because it's a new year. February, Valentine's Day. You had sugar, fat, pro-inflammatory foods that,
Mm,
guess what? Once you had sugar, sugar tanks your immune system for a couple of days. Now you're doing, what's that, 5 months? That's 5 months? No, October, November, December, January, February, that's 5 months. 5 months of cyclical. And that's just, and those tend to be the times when we like do it in excess. In addition to the standard American diet, SAD, the SAD diet.
mm,
Like
ooh.
you've done that for 5 months. And then this is prime time flu season. People are going to get sick. So let us be more mindful. And I said, people do have to exercise some level of control and discipline when you're consuming these things. I'm not saying you can't enjoy yourself, but know what's going to happen if you overindulge, especially for 5 months. And somebody went off the rails or whatever. And I'm just like, and then I heard from God because we're talking about we're talking about what you said was, you're looking to the left and you're looking to the right and you're looking at other people's things and you want those things. And when I got that backlash back, but it's crazy because even though maybe about like 6 people who were like, oh, here goes the holistic propaganda. And I'm like, it's not holistic propaganda. It's just using this is the intuition that people aren't, this is the intuition. You know what I mean? Nobody has to tell you that blank zeros are bad, that sodas with zeros are bad. People tell me all the time, they're like, oh, I thought it was better for me. You could not. You could not. I said, Jesus did not die on the
Clocking,
cross.
she's clocking, she's
Jesus,
clocking.
I tell people sometimes, I do tell the base something. I'm like, Jesus did not die on the cross for you to eat that. He didn't. There's no way. There's no
It
way.
in wow, the sad thing I had no clue of. I'm not gonna lie. That's scary. The standard American diet sad.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it's
That's going to have to be in the title. However, when we go overseas, UK don't even have flavored coffee creamer. There's ah, this could even just be a conversation in itself of actual nutrition in the States. And I love that you said that because being holistic, no one, if you're holistic, no one's saying you can't get a vaccine. You can't you do what you think is aligned and you do your proper research and see if that aligns with you. Because
yeah.
moral of the story, holistic health, just like you said, is being conscious of what you put in your body, whether that's good or bad. There's herbs. You naturally just regulating your own nervous system can help you so much. There's so many things that don't have to be medicinal to
Hmm.
solve a problem. But also, in the contrary to that, you cannot blame medicinal things for you being sick if you are not taking care of yourself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But and that's because it is lacking the evidence base. So it's okay for you to downregulate those things that were orated
Yep.
because that's just what was done. That's instinctively what we did. But because it's not evidence based, you can't. There are a lot of things that are evidence based, and I'm telling you, as a provider, there are a lot of things that are evidence based.
It can be
Not
solved
everything is for.
not that way.
It's like, sorry, let me get back to this real quick. When that person did all that backlash, or it was maybe just like one person, but it was like maybe six people in total who were like, oh no, maybe three or four, honestly. But I still get notifications about that one post of all of the people who actually agreed. But when I saw that person's response, my spirit was upset. And I was
Mm,
talking to my husband, he was like, and it's because you feel like you were exposed. And I'm like, I guess I was exposed because that's my truth. Like these are things that are I know to be true.
true.
One,
Yes.
because I've gone before and I've done these things and I've felt these things. You can only know yourself inside. And if you don't know yourself inside, it's really hard for you to move accordingly. So when I respond, or I didn't respond to that person actually, but because I wasn't going to feed into the energy, I wasn't going to do it. I wasn't going to fight. What I heard was God say, is that really what you want?
Mm,
Because they fought me all the time. Like, and this is what comes with you get more exposure. And that's why they tell you, like, you know, if you say you're going to give when you're a millionaire, if you're not giving now, you're not going to give then because the light just exposes what's already there. And so it really challenges me, even when I think about that thread. I'm like, one, I have to be so careful with how I'm providing this information. Two, not everyone is going to receive it because not everyone is there.
yeah.
But three, you're going to get a lot of backlash when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, when you're aligned with what you're doing and doors start
Yeah.
opening. That doesn't mean that the weapons won't form. He just said that they wouldn't prosper because they persecuted him. Why would they
Yeah.
not persecute the person who follows him? And that doesn't, and people would feel like, oh, well, you think you're God or you think you're, no, I'm not the person doing the things that are currently being done in the world. I don't play God. I don't, but I am aligned with God and I
Mm-hmm.
manifest with God because that's what He has given me the power and the will to do. And that's, it was somebody else and they were like, oh, get out of here with that prosperity gospel. He made you in His likeness and His image. That's what He says. That's what He says. For I know the plans that I have for you, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. Why would I not believe that He doesn't have good things stored up for me if I'm doing what He told me to do? And this is what God told me to
Yep.
do. This is what God told me to do. And people, that's a whole nother argument because people could get upset and say, well, how do you know? Do you have a relationship with God though? Do
Mm.
you? Because if you know, and that's, oh God, just bring me back. Bring me back. I could come another day, I promise. Because
Because
when you
that's a topic.
like, it's like people are gonna argue with you about what God told you and what you heard and what you know. That message wasn't for everybody.
Yep.
It was for you. And not everyone sees the vision. They're not gonna see the vision. It wasn't their vision to see.
Yeah.
Like, and it's just that simple.
Yeah.
So staying true to yourself is so important, like you said.
It's exactly that. Every message is not for everyone, which makes it hard to convey a message like you tried to
Mm,
in that video because that message isn't for everyone. However, you did have the people who are still liking, who are still saving the video. So you're still seeing that it's not like your message is so left field.
mm-hmm,
It's for some. The people who need to
mm-hmm.
hear are hearing it.
Yeah.
And just like your husband said, yeah, expose when you really share a message that is near and dear to your heart that you had and you were intuitively
Mm-hmm,
told to say, and you know that this did not come from a place of malice, come from a place of bashing, come from a place of spreading misinformation,
mm-hmm.
however, a place of actually trying to help. When you do get those responses, you're like, whoa,
Yeah.
wrong energy here. Why are we fighting against something that I'm trying to help? Why are we
Yeah.
fighting against someone who's actually here to expand and help people see something different?
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest thing that I can say and reason why people do that is because being compliant is easy. It's
Yeah.
easy to say, no, it's not my fault that I got sick. It's this. it's easy to point the finger because when we play victim, we just say we don't have control over our life. So therefore, if we're
Mm,
playing victim and we don't have control over our life, we don't have control over circumstances that happen. So then it's like, well, this happened to me. My life sucks. My this because it's
yes.
so not in your hands. And although some people may automatically think that those two have no correlation, they do. Because
Hmm.
most people that have a victim mentality also struggle with health complications. And we're not
Mm,
speaking about certain things. We are both educated. Obviously, I don't have my degree, my clinical degree yet, but I love all things health and science, and I wanted to be a doctor. And I also, too, don't spread ignorance. Obviously, there are things that are just unfortunate that happen to people. However, there are some people that put things onto them because they are not
mm,
being mindful.
yeah,
It is, of
yeah.
course, it's easier to go down to McDonald's and get a $2 large fry when a salad is
Mm,
$10. No one's
hmm.
not dismissing that. No one's not dismissing how the system has
Yep.
warped in this sad diet that we all have had, but it is up to us to pull ourselves out of it and make those healthier choices. But if we
Hmm.
constantly play into this victim mentality, we don't just see it in our health, we see it in our relationships, we see it in our
Yeah.
career, we see it with how we view ourselves.
Hmm.
So it's
Hmm.
like having that victim mentality, which stems back to what we said at the very beginning of the episode, not shifting your mindset to be elevated and have that growth mindset, you are the only one that's hurting from that.
Yep.
No one else is hurting from that base.
Yeah. Yeah.
From
Yeah.
experience, from me, she's saying it from experience. No one else is losing by you playing victim. The only person
Mm,
that's losing is you.
yeah.
You're
Yeah.
robbing yourself from a life of fulfillment, happiness, and good health. And good health does
Yeah.
not mean being 90 pounds on the scale. Good health does
Hmm.
not mean um certain things. Good health is different for each person. And it's a constant
Hmm.
journey.
That is, it is. Oh,
So before we enter our last topic, y'all, we have given you so much that I can't even trail back to, okay? Because we hit a lot of topics in this episode. So I'm hoping you guys are enjoying. But for our last topic, we are going to let the expert herself tell us how we can reclaim back our health with great holistic methods. I know you specialize all about gut health and other holistic things. So let us know some key things to help us reclaim our health, okay? Because a lot of us got gut issues, to be honest.
and I mean, it makes absolute sense based upon the diet that we've been talking about. Um, so firstly, yes, I've learned, and this is something completely different. Went to nursing school, went to get my master's as a nurse practitioner, started functional nutrition school, and it has literally been the connection. It's made the connections, the things that I've seen in clinical practice that no one could actually explain to me. Because, and it's focusing on nutrition, not even just the things that you eat, but how truly important gut health is. And at this point, gut health is it's a buzzword. You're gonna hear everyone talk about gut health. And everyone is like, oh, a probiotic, a prebiotic, da, da, da. Not to say that those things aren't right, because we should improve our gut health. Essentially, breaking it down, you have gut bacteria. Everyone has bacteria, yeast, um, fungi. Those things, it's okay to have those things in the body. It's not okay when they are in excess, when
Mm,
they start to proliferate, then they develop problems. So, and based upon that's the thing, it could be many things that cause these problems to start gut health. What I'll say is gut health is truly important because when your gut microbiome, that world, um, is properly harmonized and your intestinal tract, the barrier is not um, permeated, it is solid as a rock, like it's fortified. Things that should that things that go in, like when you get a virus, it's not going to affect your gut health.
mm,
Things that are already in there, if it's well fortified, are not going to go up and cause problems. But when you continuously consume things that are like highly processed, and even for some gluten, because you know, I think it's been like at least 10 years that gluten-free has been, like trending, and not a lot of people have celiac disease, but a lot
Mm,
of people have gluten sensitivity. The reason why people have gluten sensitivity is because you're getting wheat that is not the wheat that was eaten hundreds of years ago. This is
mm,
completely different, refined wheats. It makes no sense why you have white whole wheat. What does that even mean?
mm.
So that gluten, what it does, and this is why I love, love, love. Let me tell you one thing about me. I always empower my patients. I always educate my patients. And sometimes I may give you a little bit too much knowledge, but hey, one day you may use it. So the thing with gluten is it opens up, it creates permeability within your intestinal lining. So if your gut is like this, right? And then you start to consume wheat, but you're also eating other things that are highly processed, it starts to open up. So when it starts to open up, then you have other foods that were broken down but will start to stick here. And if
Mm.
they're sticking, it's called it can also be called a leaky gut. Leaky gut is also like a trending kind of
I have been seeing the
topic now.
leaky gut. I have been seeing leaky gut. I'm literally writing this down as we speak.
Yes, so that has become um, a thing that a lot of people are talking about, this leaky gut. What is a leaky gut? So essentially, your lining has been infiltrated. But what happens is, so now let's say I have someone who um, had C. diff, which is a bacterial infection that really wreaks havoc on your gastrointestinal system. And then they had to take antibiotics. So let's say now you take antibiotics, you were eating these things, and then since then, you've been having this issue with gas and bloating, and I eat just a little bit of food, and for whatever reason, like I'm so full so easily. People don't realize it's not just about the gut health. What what was transpiring in your mental health when that was going on? What external forces were coming in? You had a virus, or you had something that is weakening your immune system.
Wow.
All of those things come into play. Gut health is so important because a lot of the issues that we have stem from your gut. Eczema, psoriasis,
Mm,
migraines, fatigue, brain fog.
mm.
Um, the diagnoses that we have are just, as I've learned it, they are just the leaves on the tree. The roots the roots is your gut, whatever's stemming from your gut. Those are the roots. And then out from that, you want to produce fruit. You want to produce good fruit, or it's going to produce bad fruit,
Mm.
depending upon what's going on in your life. So now you have these branches and then your leaves or your fruits. The fruits are now the medical diagnoses that you have, the hypertension, the diabetes, the migraines, the PCOS, the fibromyalgia, autoimmune disorders also come from poor gut health. And does that mean to say that once you attack your gut health, that it's going to completely rid everything? Absolutely not, because it didn't happen overnight. And it's not just one thing that has led to this. It's not just going to be one thing that's going to resolve your health issues. You also have to address your stress. You also have to address your blood sugar regulation. You also have to address your hormones. If, and it's so funny because like we were talking about, holistic health and how people have so much more information on social media. I see all the time when people send messages or they'll post something and they'll be like, ladies, what's your go-to vitamin or supplement for gut health or for your migraines
Mm,
or for your PCOS? And they're like, oh, try this, 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 this. Doesn't work that way.
mm,
All of those recommendations are great, but those are the same times where people will say, I tried this and it didn't work for me. Why? You didn't get to the root cause of the issue.
mm.
What actually stemmed like I see people all the time, and this is when it really started frustrating me. I see a lot of patients with pre-diabetes as much as I see people who are diabetic. And because the best way to hide something is in plain sight, people are like, oh, it runs in my family. When people say that, I'm just like, I get that, but one, you don't have to claim that over your life. Two,
Yes.
just because you may have a predisposition, what we've learned is that we think genetics is a sentence. It's a life sentence. Oh, my mom, all of my family members had diabetes.
Yep.
All of my family
Yep.
members had.
Yep. Of course.
That is not, it's not a life sentence. You have cells, you have signals that you can tick on or tick
Mm-hmm.
off every time you choose what you put in your body. You can either tick it off for autoimmune disorder, or you could tick it on for autoimmune disorder. And so it really, like people have to realize just how important what you're putting in your body affects not today, but weeks down the line.
Yes.
Some people don't even realize that. Like, and I'll let you talk, but like things like food sensitivities. When people go to the allergist or they go to the dermatologist for their eczema and their psoriasis, and then I ask them, I'm like, okay, so what did they say? And I already know what they're gonna say, but I'm still gonna listen. I'm like, and they'll say, yeah, they gave me a cortisone cream and no shade to dermatologists. I would just like to see people being more educated about their diet,
Mm.
other than you telling them, um, like, I just don't understand why people don't understand the importance of gut health and its effect on the gut skin axis. Your gut, which is why, Jesus, asthma, allergies, and eczema, they run as a trifecta. If you
Stop,
have
because I
one, you
have
likely
all
have two.
three.
Ma'am, I'm not gonna tell you a lie. I'm not gonna tell you a lie. I'm not gonna tell you a lie, and that stems from your gut health. And you may, depending upon an allergist or if you see the allergist, they'll do skin testing, and they'll say, hey, you're allergic to all of these things, but they won't say, hey, treat your gut.
Mm.
They won't say, you know what I mean? Those things, I'm not comfortable with accepting those things because I've been in the healthcare profession long enough to say, okay, what are we really doing here? We're
Mm-hmm.
maintaining. We're maintaining. I don't want to maintain.
Yes.
I
Yes.
don't want to push pills. Like what
Yes.
I will do is make sure I give you blood pressure medication to improve your or to preserve your kidney function while you get your diet and lifestyle modifications together so we can get you off this medication. I'm not gonna about to
Yes.
stick you on a medication that you're gonna live on lifelong and then think you can use it as a crutch to go and have Burger King. We're not doing that.
Mm.
That's you got the wrong one. You're not gonna get it from me. But back to the eczema, the allergies, the asthma. Those are all stemming from the gut, the impaired gut microbiome. But you also have to consider, hey, how many times did I get antibiotics as a kid?
Mm.
People don't realize you consume eggs and everybody's talking about eggs right now. Oh my God, they're so expensive. Granted, they are expensive. But do you realize that they use antibiotics in eggs?
Mm.
So you're like, oh no, I'll ask patients, when's the last time you had an antibiotic? And they're like, oh, it's been a while. But do you eat store-bought eggs? Do you
Mm.
check to see if it's antibiotic free? Because if not, you're getting doses every time. If you're getting doses every time, guess what's happening? Your microbiome, your good gut bacteria is being shut down every time. And then you
Wow.
now have to have the sole responsibility of nurturing it back. Are you doing that with the sad diet that you're consuming? And if you're not, then you may anticipate some more problems. And that's why people who are younger and younger are having more health issues that should be seen in older people. Oh, because this is something that's been,
Go ahead. Just we on y'all.
um,
We giving some gems, but if you are still here with us, she's gonna give us a last token,
I'm,
the
I'm
last
sorry.
piece, the puzzle.
In terms of starting your health journey, you have to identify you, and this is holistic. Everybody's going to shoot around the word of holistic, and it's not just herbs. It's not just Reiki. It's not just, EFT tapping. It's not just, you know what I mean? Which is, all of those things are great. Don't get me wrong. It's not that you can't do those things. What are you feeding yourself physically, mentally, spiritually? Those are things you have to consider. When you consider, I had a patient one time and he kept having cysts on his face. And Lord have mercy. And this is where this comes in again. He kept saying, he was like, yeah, it's always been happening to me. No one's ever said anything or done anything. I've seen this specialist, I've gone here, and no one's. I'm like, okay, so what trauma did you have to your face? And he was like, actually, when I was, you know, serving, I got shot in my face. He's like, but no one's ever asked me that. And I never
Wow.
thought about that. The trauma that happened to his face, he's now holding on to. Your body, there's a book called The Body Keeps the Score.
Yes,
And
yes.
yes, so so it's like when people want to know like how do I treat my gut or how do I start a holistic journey, you have to look at yourself in totality. You're not just not just the gut. You have to figure out what mental, physical, emotional traumas did I experience as a child? Was I born vaginally or did my mom have a C-section? Was I
Mm,
breastfed or bottle fed? Um, did I have lots of ear infections? Did I have issues with um, self-respect? And you know what I mean? Like, am I a people pleaser? Do I do I eat late at night? Get to the root cause. If you start, and that's the thing that people don't want to do. They don't want to do the hard work. You want the quick fix. You want the sea moss. You want the elderberry. You want the, not to say that those things aren't good, but if you're not addressing the underlying issues, you can't benefit from those things that are very costly.
yes.
You know what I mean? So start with yourself. Identify the things that, yeah, and it's gonna take some time. It is a journey. It is a wellness evolving journey. So take the time, show yourself grace, look at yourself in a holistic perspective, and get started. Just get started.
Yes. Wow, Samantha. What a powerful episode. She just gave you great advice, me as well, on how to start your holistic health journey. And I do encourage everyone to not allow the word holistic to take them away from what it
Hmm.
actually means. It's really how to care for your body in a way
Yeah.
that does not require medicines. Everything does not require medicine. Everything is not a quick fix. The holistic methods will provide the long lasting change.
Mm.
So we talked about gut, WWA, our sad diet that we have been forced upon for a very long time, and it's up to us to get out of it. We
Yeah.
talked about Black history. We've talked about everything in this episode. So I
Yeah.
hope you guys have enjoyed. And before we head out, please, Samantha, let them know where they can find you. Oh, I know you got your free consultation, your gut health, so let everybody know where to find you and if they want a consultation as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I created a gut health grocery guide because a lot of people they want to start eating healthy and they don't know where to start. They don't know what to do in the grocery store. So you can find me on Instagram at Wellness Evolving One and TikTok at wellness.evolving. And both of them have the links for the free gut health grocery guide. So you could definitely check that out and get yourself started. I also have on Amazon my 60-day faith and food-based journal. So those are for my people of faith who want to tap in and start manifesting with God. They want to reclaim their health so that they can walk in their divine purpose. Actually, hold on.
Oh, I know
So
that's right.
this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like.
Yes.
And so yeah, like I love it because I'll just show you some pages here. Um, it says good food, good mood. So again, mental
Mm,
health, physical health. It gives you a place where you can just document what it is that you ate that week, what you're eating for next, or what you're plan on grocery shopping for next week because you have to be intentional. And every day you have like a scripture at the top and a prompted sentence. And I decided that I wanted to create this journal because I was on a health and wellness journey, and I'm like, God, real quick. I'm like, God, I want to lose the taste of sugar out of my mouth. Like, I don't want to keep craving these things. Why am I craving these things? Which is a lot of people's problems right now. Like, why am I always craving something, some sugar? And so I was like, but did you ever pray about it? Did you ever ask God to remove it?
mm.
No, I hadn't. So once I started doing that, and then I started affirming myself every day, I kid you not, people don't. I'm realizing that now people are seeing it a little bit more, but absolutely, when I started going back to those foods, my stomach automatically, my body, like I would feel the sugar, what it was doing to my
Wow.
system. And that's that intuition, that's being in tune with yourself. I realized I could not continue to eat those things without having those effects. And yes, I asked God to do that for me. You don't think He was going to do it for you?
Mm.
So now I can't backslide anymore. And even when I do, I'm like, oof, I can't do this. So I still am very cautious about what I consume. And most of the times, like if you check out my Facebook, I mean my Instagram or TikTok page, I do post videos of like healthier treats, healthier foods and tips and options and things like that because I can't just tell someone, hey, eat healthy, and then you don't know what to do. So I
Yep,
provide you with healthier
yep.
alternatives. So the Faith and Food-Based Journal, that was designed for me because I wanted scriptures that I needed to help guide me along the way. And I needed to know what was the Bible saying? What should I actually be eating? And I couldn't find that on my Bible app. So, and that's the thing, as a good provider, you have to go before your patients. I'm not going to tell you something that I haven't already done, which is why I had to go through the book myself first. I had to sit there and find the scriptures. I had to read the scriptures. I had to affirm myself. I had to do the dietary changes in order to then generate the book so that other people can benefit from it. I can't make that book and then I'm looking like, you know, because how can you trust someone who doesn't look like they're doing what they're supposed to be doing?
Mm.
So yes, you could definitely access, if you go to TikTok, it also has the free 15-minute consultation that you could book with me. If you have any concerns about a health and wellness coaching and you want to get started, let's chat. I'm excited. And yeah, I'm ready to help people reclaim their health.
Thank you
Thank you so
so
much.
much, Samantha, for this crazy powerful conversation that took us on so many different paths. We literally,
Yes.
people are probably still on the first 30, 40 minutes. So if you have made it this far, you are ready to start your health and wellness journey and become your better self and step into your divine aligned path and elevate your mind and
Yes.
wake your mind and elevate your life, as we like to call it over here. So once again, this was another episode of Power and Poise, and we will see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.